We are going to continue talking about some apostrophes in this lesson, just to talk about the sentences that I gave you last lesson to correct them. If you did that, great. If you didn't, that's okay. We're going to go over them now. So these are the sentences that I had you look at to fix the incorrect apostrophe, right? To kind of edit it yourself, right? Um, so the first sentence we'll talk about is I left my clothes in the bathroom. So this one has an incorrect apostrophe use, right? So where is it? It should say I left my clothes in the bathroom with no apostrophe. Why? Because clothes is plural. It's not saying that the clothes own or belong to anything. It's just saying there is more than one here. So that's why we do not need an apostrophe S. So that one is just, Clothes with no apostrophe. So this is just a reminder. Um, if you have a plural word, you don't want to use an apostrophe. Now, the next sentence, those plates are all dirty, again, those plates are all dirty, it's plural. So you do not need to use an apostrophe, right? So that's pretty easy, right? You've got that. So this next one, there are two S's in the word brass. Now you may be thinking, well, that's plural, right? S's, more than one. Two is more than one. But the correct way to write it is there are two S's with an apostrophe in the word brass. Now, you might be thinking like, okay, so it's plural, but it's also the exception. So remember we talked about exceptions yesterday where we said, are you writing a single letter of a word? For example, there are two T's in my name, right? So when we are using just a single letter of a word, right, then we would use an apostrophe S, even though it's just plural. We're not saying that the S owns anything. We're just saying that it's plural. And so it's the exception to the rule of not using an apostrophe for a plural. Okay, so the next sentence is the man's outfits always look nice. So this has two words that do not use apostrophes correctly. So the correct answer or the correct sentence should be done this way. The man's outfits always look nice. So let's go through and see why it's this way. So we say the man's outfit with the apostrophe before the S instead of after it, right? Why do we do this? Because it's possessive, right? We do an apostrophe S if it's possessive. The person owns something, or the thing owns something, or it's a part of something. And you may be thinking, well, I thought if it's plural and possessive, isn't it the man's outfit? Wouldn't that be the correct way to do it? Um, but you'll notice that it says man, um, and man is one of those words in English that is singular by itself. Adding an S to the end of it doesn't make it plural. The plural of man is men, right? So we know that in the sentence, man is singular and he owns the outfits. So it's possessive, the man's outfits. Now, the word outfit, you may be thinking, well, why isn't it possessive? Isn't the outfits that are looking good? Well, um, when we do possessives, I think in almost every time you use it, the when it has an apostrophe S, the word that comes right after it is the word that they own. And you can't really own or possess always, right? So always isn't a person or a place or a thing or a group. So that's why this one is plural. So the man's outfits always look nice, right? So because we're saying that the outfits that belong to the man and it's outfits, so there's more than one, so it's possessive, and outfits is plural, so that's why we use oh, and so that's why we don't use an apostrophe s, because it's just plural, and we use an apostrophe s for mans because it's possessive. Now, this is just a little reminder. Does the word own something, or is it a member of something? So that's when we use an apostrophe s. So the band's outfits is a good example. Okay, so the next one. This one's kind of hard. Also because I used kind of a hard word, which I think that some of you will know because you work in a hospital. But this sentence is, the defibrillators cases need to be checked. So the defibrillators are the things that people use to like revive people who have died. So they're the little like things that you rub together and it goes woo, and it like shocks people in the chest, right? That's what a defibrillator is. I'm sure you guys know what those are. So in the sentence, the defibrillators cases need to be checked. So this one's kind of hard because there's a lot going on, because it looks like it's right. But there's some clues to tell us what needs to be done, or what needs to be fixed. So in this case, the defibrillators would not have an apostrophe s, because the sentence uses the word cases and not case. So why is that important? Well, cases is plural, right? And if we just said the defibrillators, and we used the apostrophe s like in this sentence. So in this sentence, the defibrillators cases, this is saying that there's only one defibrillator and it belongs to this case, right? But it says cases, it says plural, right? Cases, the defibrillators cases. So this is saying that there's one defibrillator and there's more than one case. And for defibrillators, there's only one case for one defibrillator. So we have to do something that is plural and possessive, which is why we do the S and then the apostrophe, because that's what we do when something is plural and it's possessive, because we're saying there are multiple defibrillators, more than one. But they all belong to their own case, which is why we say cases plural and there's no apostrophe in cases. So that one's a little bit complicated, but it should make sense now that we've talked about it. So this is kind of the explanation, right? Is the word plural and possessive, put the apostrophe after the S, and then the little, unless the word is already plural, like, you know, men, children, women, those kinds of words. Okay, so the last one that we're going to do is the sentence, we are going to the Abu Ghazala's for dinner tonight. Now this one looks kind of right? So we're saying that it's the Abu Ghazala's, right? And we're going to their house, right? When in English, when we say, oh, we're going to, you know, the Johnsons, we're going to the Rivera's house, what that means is you're going to the place that they own, right? As a family, that they live, that they belong to. So in English, you know, in this sentence, we are going to the Abu Ghazala's for dinner tonight. It could say we are going to the Abu Ghazala's house, but because it says the Abu Ghazala's, in English, we infer, which means to just kind of understand without saying, that it's their house or their apartment, the place that they live. So that's why in this sentence, it doesn't have house right after it, but we can still use a possessive, right? Like I said a couple times ago, you usually don't have a possessive word, like you don't have an apostrophe S for to make something possessive unless there's a word right after it that they can own or belong to. This is an exception because when we say it, we are going to the Abu Ghazala's for dinner tonight. It's assumed that when you say the Abu Ghazala's, you're talking about the place that they live. But if you just said to Abu Ghazala's, people would be like, okay, is that their first name or their last name? When you put a the, with somebody's last name and you make it plural and possessive, then you're telling people, okay, this is the place that they live. This is the place that they belong. It's an apartment, it's a house, it's just where they live. So technically, this sentence, you would want to say, the Abu Ghazaleh's house to make it make the most sense. But in English, people would understand this. But so how to fix it, right? Because we learned that when you are using somebody's name and it's plural and possessive, you want to put the apostrophe after the S. So that's how this one works out. And remember, we learned that for like using apostrophe with a name. So, is it possessive and is it a name that ends in an S? Then you can do an apostrophe S or you can put the apostrophe after the S. That's okay. But if it is a possessive and a plural name, you want to put the S at the end of the name and you want to put the apostrophe S at the end, right? So we put the S to make it plural, right? And then we put the apostrophe after the S to let people know it's possessive too. If we just put the apostrophe after or in between the name and the S, like if we just put it right there, that would make people think it was somebody's first name rather than a plural, right? Because people would say, oh, Panich is possessive of something. But when we say Paniches, it's more than one. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is how do we pronounce this? Charles, Abu Ghazaleh's, Abu Ghazaleh's. It's pronounced either way. I've heard it both ways where people will just add an S, but if it's like plural and possessive, right? Like in this case, they'll add another S sound, Abu Ghazaleh's, right? Or they'll say, let's find some more. The defibrillators cases, right? It's usually with names that people add the extra S, like Abu Ghazaleh's, Panich's. But my rule that I just do is I just pronounce it, the Paniches, the Johnsons. I just Johnsons. I just add an S to the end. You don't have to say the Johnsons is, the Rivera's is, because then it gets kind of like, ooh, I'm adding a lot of S sounds. So when in doubt, just pronounce it with one S, and you'll be okay. So the other thing I wanted to do today is some reading practice. So I found a news article from yesterday, I think. And it's a story here. I'll zoom in on this so we can read it very clearly. But it was a story in the news about a mountain lion that broke through a glass door into somebody's house, right? So that's kind of crazy, right? So you'll see that this title says very unusual. And when you see these little, these look like apostrophes, right? So you're like, we just learned about apostrophes. Why are they right here and being used like quotation marks, right? Those little lines that come before and after words that you use when somebody else is speaking. So this is something that people use when they write. And it's just to show that they're quoting someone, but it has to do with like writing style and things like that. So we won't go too much into that. Just know that like when you see it like this, it's just saying that they're quoting somebody. It's something somebody said. And it says mountain lion breaks through glass door into Mill Creek Canyon home. Now, something that's interesting about news and verb tense is you'll notice that the verb tense is simple present, right? Which is what I taught you to use when you talk about something that happens a lot. For some reason, in English news stories, they use the simple present tense for news titles, right? Even though it's not really correct, they use it to make it sound like it's full of action and that it's something that's happening and like so it's something that isn't technically really correct, but people use it anyways in news and reporting. It's just the style and the way they choose to do it. So we'll just read some of this. Um, if you can't read it very well, I can send you the link to it, but we'll just read the first bit. So this says Mill Creek, which is a place in Salt Lake City, right? If you want to like read it by yourself, you can just turn down the volume and read it as I start, scrolling. But if you want to read it out loud with me, that's okay too. So a mountain lion broke into a home through a sliding glass door in the foothills of Mill Creek Canyon on Saturday. The man who discovered the animal walked away uninjured. The incident happened about 11 a.m. Saturday when a man went to check on his family members. Woo! See, look at that. Apostrophe S, possessive member's house, and discovered the home was a little cold, said Scott Root, outreach manager for the Division of Wildlife Resources. When the man went downstairs, he saw a large hole in the sliding glass door and noticed several potted plants scattered around, with some plants appearing to have bites taken out of them. So what's going on here? What does all of this mean? So incident is like the thing that happened. It's the problem. It's usually like an accident or, it's just when you say incident, it's just the event, the the action that happened that you're talking about. Um so a mountain lion ended up breaking through somebody's sliding glass door, right, and coming into their house. And the guy went downstairs and he found it and he's like, oh, okay. And then it says, shortly after discovering the hole in the glass door, the man saw a mountain lion dart means to like move really quickly, out of a corner and run back outside through the broken glass. Root said there was no blood at the scene, so they don't believe the animal was injured. Wild officials think the mountain lion saw itself in the reflection of the glass and pounced inside. So, what does that what does all of that mean? So, to just kind of recap what that paragraph said, it's saying after they found the hole, they saw a mountain lion in their house, in their basement, and it ran out through the glass that it broke through. And then they said that there was no blood at the scene, which means it's not injured, it's not hurt. And then the wildlife officials, so the people who work for the state, with like about wild animals and things like that, they think that the mountain lion saw its reflection in the glass, um, and so it like tried to like attack it because it thought it was another mountain lion. So this story, there's a little video of it, um, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Um, I won't show you the video because I'm not sure if it will play. So we'll just call it the end of the lesson. And so we got a little bit of reading practice, talked about some apostrophes. And then if you want to watch this video on the internet, you can. I'll just play it at the end of this video, and if you can't hear it, then then you can just end the lesson here. Oh, I think it's gonna play an ad.
Seriously injured? The insurance companies
Yep,
have some of the best,
it'll
most
play an
experienced
ad.
lawyers
Come on
representing
now.
them.
Good old commercials. So we'll watch this video for some kind of listening practice if you didn't quite understand the reading.
thank you. We have some exclusive video just into the newsroom that shows a mountain lion prowling a Salt Lake neighborhood.
Big Cat was pretty bold, actually broke into the home and then he went downstairs. News specialist Dan Rascone spoke exclusively with the man who encountered the cougar in his dad's basement. Dan, a frightening situation for sure.
Yeah, very scary, frightening situation for John Hughes. You know, the family's lived in that home for 46 years. All that time, they've never even seen a cougar in this area. Now, all of a sudden, one breaks into their basement.
Really made a mess.
Overturned flower pots, broken glass, footprints in the snow,
The footprints in the snow are huge.
and a dead raccoon. The aftermath
Look at the size of that hole.
of a very large cougar
Totally surprised.
that just so happened to break into J.P. Hughes' basement through the sliding glass door that leads into the backyard. The home is located at the mouth of Mill Creek Canyon.
Incredible. It's a story. You think, whoa, what's amazing to me, look at this. It just knocks this over and eats all of this aloe vera out of here.
Walked over here. JP's son, John, is the one who actually encountered the cougar. He came down into the basement on Saturday morning to water the plants and felt a breeze coming from the door and saw the broken glass.
I didn't know what to think. It was a raccoon.
But as he went to cover the hole, that's when he saw the cougar, just an arm's length away.
Registered, but it didn't. Like, whoa, it's kind of surreal when it's happening. It was just not expecting it.
Fortunately, the cougar had no interest in John and took off back through the broken glass door.
I'm real glad it wasn't mad at me.
We believe it was very fortunate.
Mountain lion attacks in Utah are very rare. Typically, it's just the mountain lion is trying to protect their young.
Wildlife officials believe the cougar may have seen its own reflection on the glass door and lunged at it. They say cougars are actually rare in these parts.
It's still quite unusual to see a mountain lion in the Mill Creek area. Even though it's on the foothills at the mouth of the canyon, you still won't see a mountain lion that low that often.
The Hugheses have lived here for 46 years and never have even seen a cougar in these parts.
It's one of the most exciting things that's ever happened in this basement.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. You know, that video you see there was actually taken on surveillance video on Thursday. So it looks like this mountain lion.
So that's the end of the video. This is the end of the lesson. I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next.